Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, government officials and advisors, Ms. Rosalinda Rasul, Head of the Diaspora Unit, Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, members of the private sector, distinguished panelists, members of the Guyanese diaspora across the globe, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to welcome you all to this novel event, the first of its kind in Guyana. Even as the pandemic has kept us away from normal physical contact, we can say that we have beat its threat to communicate. This virtual platform, which has allowed us to come together, is evidence of that fact. We apologize for the delay in the start of this program, but wanted to give others a little more time to be admitted into the room. So thank you all for your patience. Ladies and gentlemen, since the policy pronouncement of His Excellency the President in August of 2020, the planning for this activity has been intense. Today crystallizes the beginning of a new era of engagement for the Guyanese diaspora. Our distinguished principals will present the roadmap for this exciting and long-awaited journey. It therefore gives me great pleasure to invite first Mr. Robert Passad, Foreign Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, to give the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson and Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Your Excellency, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan, Vice President, Dr. the Honorable Barra Jagdeo, members of Cabinet present here in the Dome, as well as members of the Cabinet who will be joining us or are joining us virtually, members of the Diplomatic Corps joining us virtually, senior government functionaries here and also those joining us virtually, members of the media, very importantly, members of our cherished diaspora, ladies and gentlemen. A pleasant good morning to you from Georgetown, Guyana. It is my pleasure today to welcome you all to the first virtual diaspora conference held by the government of Guyana. This is quite an historic occasion. What makes this occasion special is firstly, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to conduct most of our activities on virtual platforms. And I must say that this conference is the largest virtual activity we have facilitated since taking office. We have about 1,000 registered participants today from all around the globe, including Australia, Botswana, East Timor, Ethiopia, Finland, Japan, Nigeria, the Philippines, Pakistan, Russia, Sri Lanka, the Caribbean, and of course, and cannot continue without mentioning North America, the United Kingdom, and Europe, where well over 50% of the participants in today's session reside. I'm proud to say that we have participants from every continent here with us on this platform today. Today being Saturday, we know that you have many personal matters to take care of. Instead, you've chosen to take time out of your busy schedule to hear what we have to say and to let us have the benefits of your thoughts on the issues before us. Your presence makes us feel honored to be able to engage in how we can together work for the benefit of Guyana. Our appreciation of this high honor is reflected in the high level of participation of the government, including the live participation of His Excellency, the President, the Vice President, and Ministers of Government here in today's conference. Their participation is intended to assure you of the government's interest in and commitment to the diaspora and to the contribution we know it can make to the overall development and transformation of our country. During this conference, you'll be able to garner information on a wide range of subject areas and help us to understand policies that must be made to enable you to engage easier and effectively with the various persons and institutions that you assist. For us, matters of security, migration, trade, investment, tourism, youth engagement, among others, are very important. While the diaspora is already engaged in various ways, the government recognizes that better modalities are needed to serve you and to guarantee that Guyana has a fruitful and long-lasting relationship with its overseas-based population. Through this conference and forthcoming initiatives, you can be assured that the government is serious and remains committed to fostering your participation in the national development agenda. You can therefore view this conference as a medium through which you can initiate the feedback process between the government and you, the members of the diaspora. While we share information with you, we want to open the dialogue by hearing your concerns also, that we can begin the process of ensuring that the facilities and arrangements can be put in place to help you fulfill whatever goals and mission you have in mind. As Guyana transition into becoming the major regional energy producer, and also in transforming the traditional sectors of the economy, your invaluable skills and knowledge will be of immeasurable benefit to our country. The tangible contribution from Guyanese both here and abroad will be one of the key ingredients turning Guyana into a better place for all. We want the diaspora to be integrally involved in this transformation process. A key priority of President Ali's government is revisiting its relations with the diaspora and to overcome divisions and to rally and unite diaspora communities worldwide around commonly accepted development goals and patriotism. And we do hope that we can begin this process here through this conference today. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the dawn of a new era for the role of the diaspora as a key driver of Guyana's journey to greater prosperity. I welcome you and thank you very much.
Thank you, Foreign Secretary. We will now hear remarks from the Honorable Hugh Hilton Todd, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation.
His Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by saying that it is a distinct honor for me to address this inaugural Diaspora Conference organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Though I sincerely regret that we are unable to meet in person, given the present circumstances in which we all now live, I remain enthusiastic about any opportunity that I am provided to interact with the members of our diaspora. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has responsibility for diaspora matters. And as a subject minister, I always look forward to engaging with and hearing from our Guyanese nationals, wherever you reside. That, as it were, I am hopeful that the next Diaspora Conference will be one where we can interact in person and become even more familiar with each other as we seek to further enhance our diaspora relations. In recent years, governments across the globe have begun to increasingly recognize the increasing valuable role that diaspora communities can and do play in the development of their respective home countries. Nations, no matter their population size or gross domestic product, are always seeking ways to optimize the use of the available human and financial capital that immigrants and their descendants can contribute to their countries of origin. Guyana is no exception with regard to this trend, and we have often sought to gain a deeper understanding of the skills, expertise, knowledge, and resources that are present in the Guyanese diaspora. We are mindful of the lasting impact that the contributions of the diaspora can have on the development of Guyana. This understanding is at the heart of the effort of President Ali's administration to pursuing a structured approach to our interactions with Guyanese nationals around the world through enhanced diaspora engagement, of which today's event is an integral part. This virtual conference, along with the other actions taken over the last 8 months or so, is a demonstration of this government's determination to successfully implement the policies and initiatives that the Guyanese people have entrusted us to pursue. The government of Guyana is committed to enhancing our relationship with our nationals living abroad and to enabling their participation in Guyana's development. The diaspora has a key role to play in ensuring that Guyana can take full advantage of the opportunities for transformational change that are now available to us. Our country is on the cusp of an era of unprecedented development in our nation's history, and I have no doubt that the only path towards securing this prosperity is through the dedicated efforts of all Guyanese, those both at home and abroad. The diaspora, we know, can contribute much more than just the financial impact of the remittances it generates. Members of the diaspora can play a vital role in Guyana's development in many ways, including direct investment in a range of sectors, pursuing generous philanthropic activities, serving as mentors to young Guyanese, transferring critical skills and technologies, and even advocating for the interests of our people and the government in those countries that they now reside. It is true that Guyana's diaspora communities have been able to successfully integrate in their host countries while maintaining strong ties with Guyana. Building and maintaining a durable relationship with its diaspora is among one of the most important tasks that the government should embark upon, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has the vital role of serving as the main conduit between the diaspora and the government and people of Guyana. Let me assure that my ministry is extremely mindful of our responsibility in this regard and will continue to take all the necessary actions that will lead to sustained and enhanced engagement with the diaspora. Today's important event is one such undertaking. Let me hasten to add that this conference is not an end in itself. It is only one part of government's wide-ranging strategy to elevate diaspora engagement and to its correct place in the national agenda for development. This conference, it is envisioned, will provide an avenue through which we can learn from each other, garner feedback from the diaspora, and exchange views on the way forward. I know that the diaspora is keen to take advantage of this opportunity to interface, in many cases for the first time, with government officials, and I am confident that the information we receive today will greatly support future action on diaspora engagement. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation will work diligently with our partners across the government and the private sector to bring about long-lasting, strengthened diaspora engagement. Our mission is to ensure that we are transparent and open with the diaspora, and that your inputs are considered in whatever actions we take going forward. National development is an all-hands-on-deck endeavor, and I am confident that the diaspora is prepared to contribute to these efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, it is against this backdrop that I must extend my sincere appreciation for the work of the dedicated staff of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in organizing today's forum. I also wish to thank all the distinguished presenters and moderators that will be participating in a wide range of discussion over the next 3 hours. I look forward to working with the Guyanese diaspora across the globe in the years ahead. I thank you.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation were pre-recorded. He is on travel duty from today and extends his wishes for an interactive, very fruitful session today. We will make a slight change to our program. The Honorable Vice President will join President Ali in the question and answer session that will be held a little later in the program. So it is now my privilege to invite His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, to deliver his keynote address. Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Liz. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of Cabinet, it gives me great honor to be part of this conference this morning. I would like to make it very clear that our commitment to diaspora engagement and involvement in the development of Guyana is not only one that we are pursuing vigorously, but one that we believe strongly must involve the diaspora itself in its very formulation. And that is why today is so important and critical. You're not here just to listen to the plans and opportunities that we have here in Guyana, but importantly, we would like feedback on how we can ensure that not only the diaspora unit, but the entire strategy is developed in a way that makes it sustainable, workable, ensuring that the planned outputs can be realized. And this is critical for me because we have to get this right from the starting. We have to ensure that we are all on the same page. And I'm sure all of us are guided by at least one common principle, and that is we would like to see the best possible outcome for our country's future. So in this context, I would firstly like to thank the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, especially the Diaspora Unit, for the work they put into this conference. I know they spent a lot of time ensuring that the fundamentals of this conference was taken care of. And indeed, we are meeting at very challenging times. You know, all of us, we're going through a pandemic that has already taken one too much life from us. Here in Guyana, we are aggressively working on a vaccination program. And I ask you in the diaspora to help us in the education drive also, so that you can promote and help those back home, your relatives, your friends, to understand the importance of vaccination so they can be part of this vaccination drive. As you're aware, it is not mandatory, but it is very necessary for normalcy to be returned and for the country to move forward. So your assistance here would be greatly appreciated. Our Prime Minister too would have loved to join the conference, but as you're aware, climate change is presenting different challenges to us, challenges every day. And as we speak, he is in Region 9, where many communities are flooded out as a result of excessive rainfall. He's expected also to be in mining communities on Sunday because many mining operations has been severely affected as a result of this excessive rainfall. So over the next few hours, you would hear from different sectors of their plans, the opportunities, where the sector is going, and how you can be involved. But I would like to touch on a few macro issues to sort of bring attention to the variation of opportunities, to the variation of needs of Guyana as we speak. Before doing so, I must acknowledge the role of the diaspora in our historical development. Even most recently, your role in securing our democratic values, your role in securing the rule of law cannot go understated. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you sincerely for your interest, your time, your dedication, and your commitment. Indeed, during very difficult times, it is remittances and the contribution of the diaspora that saw many Guyanese breaking the barriers of extreme poverty. It is the remittances of Guyanese in the diaspora that contributed significantly to the eradication of many social problems. It is your commitment over the years that has helped us during many difficult times, whether it was the Great Flood, whether it was the cholera outbreak, whether it was in a health crisis. The contribution and significant role of the diaspora always played a hand in helping us. And as we navigate into the future, we would like the hands of the diaspora to be a key element in the new Guyana that will bring with it great opportunities, great prosperity. But more important than the prosperity is the fact that the diaspora has engaged in a different environment globally. And we expect you to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And I normally like to address issues frankly. The diaspora can be and is a very influential body. And that influence can be positively directed or negatively directed. And if we do an analysis of social media as one guide, we see sometimes the energy of the diaspora utilized in a negative way. So whilst we celebrate the positivity, I would like to throw the challenge out there. The unification, the coming together of the Guyanese people is paramount to the prosperity we hope to achieve. It is us understanding that we form one community, the Guyanese community, working with each other together to create a better Guyana for each other. And not tearing down each other, not struggling and utilizing our energy to destroy each other. This is a very important issue that we must not shy away from. It's an issue that we must confront. And it is an issue that we have a responsibility to change for the next generation of Guyanese. And we must take it very seriously. So today, there are 5 areas that I believe we must consider as critical in this engagement. That is integration, identity, information, investment, and influence. And in each of these pillars, we have seen how important the diaspora can be. Indeed, we have members of our diaspora who are in the House of Lords, Commonwealth Secretary General, part of the scientific team that worked on the development of the COVID-19 vaccine, Vice President of one of the largest software companies globally, Guyanese running for office in many of the areas they now reside. So influence is there. We have also seen Guyanese being business leaders. One of the top 40 fastest growing logistic groups owned by a Guyanese in Canada. So we have, from the investment side, from the business side, many Guyanese with the experience, with the capacity, with the investment, with the resources that can be deployed and that is critically needed for Guyana's future. Then we have the issue of information. How do we deal with information in a fast-paced world and in a world too that has so much misinformation? And that is why this forum and the unit is important, so that we can separate the misinformation from the real information. The issue of identity and integration. How do we build a platform that integrates this powerful tool we have in the diaspora and link this powerful asset with the development strategy and development pathway of our country? These are some of the things that we must consider in this very important conference. So, what we conceive of the unit and the way in which the unit supports this development and integration has to be founded on three principles: coordination, participation, and facilitation. And in its very early stage, we have seen the impact of the unit in facilitating, coordinating, and participating with St. Vincent and the Grenadines in dealing with the aftermath of the volcano. Guyana indeed has a diaspora in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the diaspora unit, from a very early stage, and this is the pre-eruption stage, was able to engage and connect with the Guyanese community and the leadership of that country. And as you're aware, Guyana played a significant role and continues to play a significant role in supporting St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But this is just one example of how the facilitation, the cooperation, and the participation output of the diaspora led to a positive outcome. So, in our engagement today, we must keep this at the back of our minds. How is it we believe, and we want to hear back also from you, the unit can be effective in the coordination, the facilitation, and the participation? Very, very, very key aspect of the work. Moving forward as a country, our development path is grounded on essential principles for a functioning democracy. As I congratulated you earlier, our development path is grounded on democratic values. And we guard this vigorously. The rule of law and the active involvement and participation of the citizens. What we want to achieve is not only prosperity for the people in an economic and monetary way, but for us to leave lasting prosperity, we have to have social development and advancement, political development and advancement, and indeed, economic advancement and development. And our plans and strategy under each of these will be clearly defined in the different sessions that you will have today.
We spoke about social equality, about ensuring the development of our country does not create disparity, but that enough social safety nets are incorporated in the strategy so that all our people, all sections of our society can move forward. We're talking about a world-class education and health system for all Guyanese. And included in that too are plans and a strategy for investment that would see healthcare services for members of the diaspora too. Specialized healthcare. The private sector are already engaging in investment to meet your needs. And it is true that this is happening in many other sectors too. Because we anticipate a high level of remigration. And sitting down with the private sector, we identify this health education as a risk factor in meeting what your specific demands will be. And work is already underway in creating this infrastructure. We are also working on a comprehensive strategy, not waiting until the strategy is completed, but we have started on a comprehensive strategy to address security. Because this is an important part of your decision-making process, whether to come back or not. And you'll have an entire session dealing with that. And they will share with you the statistics. They will share with you the official numbers. They will share with you the plans. And they will be there to answer your questions and concerns. In the area of infrastructure, we cannot build a new and modern Guyana without the necessary infrastructure to facilitate reliability, efficiency, fast movement of people. That is why you will hear about the massive national infrastructure, rehabilitation, upgrade, and new development plan. Not only to open up the country and create new growth poles, new secondary tongues, new tongues, but importantly, how would it create new economic opportunities? 2 roads alone in this budget will be opening up thousands of new acres of land for agricultural opportunities. The new Demra River Bridge. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and a team today are in Suriname discussing the new Quarantine River Bridge. And then the energy mix. The strategy of Guyana is to become a major player in the energy corridor of Brazil, Guyana, and Suriname. But in the immediate term, it is to ensure our cost of energy is competitive enough to drive investment traffic in agro-processing, manufacturing, industrial development, but more importantly, to reduce the cost of energy to the ordinary Guyanese, the cost of power. You will hear more of this. And then some may have the misguided or the narrow narrative of where Guyana is going. The excitement is not only about oil and gas. Yes, oil and gas will give us a massive push. But we are planning much, much bigger than oil and gas. We are planning to be the leader regionally in food sustainability and agricultural production. And we have an entire strategy. We have recently assumed once again the leadership on agriculture in the region. As you're well aware, we had the Jagdeo Initiative on Agriculture, the regional initiative that somehow we did not pay attention to in the last 5 years. Today, we are assuming that leadership once again. And what is Guyana goal? Guyana goal is to become not only a full supplier of our own food, but a net exporter regionally. And we're giving incentive, not only giving the incentives, but backing the incentive with research and development. Backing the incentive in partnership with the private sector. In another few years, we will be producing all the corn and soya we need for local feed production right here in Guyana. The project has started. And in the medium term, we'll be in a position to export. These are the type of innovative and transformational plan and agenda that we're pursuing. You heard a lot about the development for hotels, but what is the hotel linked with? And earlier I spoke about the misuse of information and the positive or negative role we can play or you can play. But take one example, the Marriott Hotel. You would recall that some tried to play this transformational project in a political context. Today, that single project is one of the best performing Marriott regionally. And with the type of development that is coming our way, we have to be prepared to make not uninformed decisions. We have to be prepared to make informed decisions that matches our development agenda. We can't be talking about moving the support services for oil and gas to Guyana. And then on the other hand, we don't want to open up the lands necessary along the Demra River to create the opportunities for those investments. We will look foolish internationally that we are pursuing investment in these areas, but we are not ready to make informed decisions. We are ready to make those decisions. We have outlined very clearly our development path, and we're in pursuit of those development goals. We're in pursuit of the 50,000 jobs. We're in pursuit of the 50,000 house lots. We're in pursuit of foreign direct investment. We're in the pursuit of having a competitive oil and gas support infrastructure here in Guyana, so the jobs will be here. We're in the pursuit of providing training opportunities for Guyanese to function in the existing and the new economy with the 20,000 scholarships. As an example, we are in pursuit of these goals. And they're not fly-by-night objectives of the government. We campaigned on these. We asked the Guyanese people to support us on these projects and this vision. And we have a responsibility to execute. So one of the areas outside of oil and gas, food sustainability and agricultural development regionally. We are also pursuing an agenda to put back Guyana in the lead role globally when it comes to the environment. So environmental leadership is another important aspect of our agenda moving forward. The Vice President is already engaging not only Norway, but many other multilateral and development partners in pursuit of this goal, ensuring Guyana regain its lead role globally on environmental services and environmental issues. So that's the second tier, environmental leadership. Then ecotourism. We not only want to be part of the market, but our goal in ecotourism is to become a main and key player in the ecotourism market. And that is why we are paying so much attention to private input, private investment in securing the infrastructure, the rooms, the lodges necessary to make our tourism, our ecotourism, a main player on the international market. But we are matching this also with the development of the human resources to meet the future need of this industry. We're already training our young people. Fourthly, logistics. Our own demand locally and the spin-off of our own investment that will see more export would require greater logistics planning. The integration of Suriname and Brazil, creation of that new corridor, making Guyana an important shipping hub for the region, requires careful planning and development of a logistics hub and industry. And that by itself brings a stream of benefits. It is not only what is happening in Guyana, it is what is happening in Brazil, especially northern Brazil. It is what is happening in Suriname. All of this, we have to bring together in understanding what is the real needs and opportunity moving ahead. Value added, manufacturing, and industrial development are all key areas for Guyana's future. That is why we're already working aggressively, not only on the development of the Wales Development Authority, but in other areas that are critical in building these sectors. And on top of all of this, of course, we have oil and gas and the support service and infrastructure that would be required. Very recently, we identified a number of opportunities where we had human resource skills lacking for this sector. And we have advertised for those positions. And we are hoping that you're engaged enough in the diaspora to also put in your interests. It's a competitive environment. Many of our young people today, they're going off in a specialized training in oil and gas. Many in our diaspora has the qualifications and the experience. So we ask you also to participate in the process by putting in your interests. So the future of Guyana depends, of course, on the skills, the experience, and investment. These are key elements of moving our country forward. The skill set, the experience, and the necessary investment. But importantly, these attributes must be driven by a vision and ideas. Must be driven by a vision and ideas. And today gives us an opportunity to engage in that vision and those ideas that will fuel the future Guyana. With these few words, I thank you and look forward for the opportunity of engaging with you now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just heard how His Excellency the President envisions in several practical and fundamental ways the involvement of the diaspora in our national development process could be realistically achieved. We will have the opportunity now to interact with His Excellency the President and the Honorable Vice President in a question and answer session where you will have the opportunity to ask questions on the vision, the ideas that he has just espoused. I will hand you over to the head of the Diaspora Unit, Ms. Rosalinda Rasul, to moderate this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. His Excellency President Mohammed Irfan Ali, and now join us the Honorable Vice President Dr. Barra Jagdeo, honorable members of the Cabinet, Foreign Secretary Mr. Robert Prasad, distinguished members of our panels present here this morning, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished heads of missions joining us virtually, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you a very pleasant good morning. As Ambassador said, my name is Rosalinda Rasul, and I'm the head of the Diaspora Unit here in Georgetown, Guyana. It is my distinct pleasure to once again welcome you to this inaugural virtual Diaspora Conference. I'm very delighted to know that at this very first conference, we have attendees from over 60 countries as far as the Philippines, Ethiopia, and even down to Peru. I'm very confident that post-conference, Guyana's diaspora engagement will evolve into initiatives and a flurry of other activities that harness the resources, the intellect, the skills, and the patriotism of Guyanese worldwide for partnership and development for the benefit of Guyana. I thank His Excellency, the President, for speaking to the issues at the core of diaspora engagement. However, there is more to come. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege this morning to moderate this bonus Q&A with our two esteemed speakers, the President and the Vice President. For this segment, I'll be taking questions that will be posted in the chat box. So those who are interested in having their questions read on the floor, you may proceed to type your questions. But we will also be having persons participating my assistant here, she will be queuing persons randomly to ask their questions basically. So how does that work? At various points, as I mentioned, the random persons of the audience will be selected to ask your question. You'll be notified by my assistant, and our support team will unmute you. You are to state your name and the country that you're representing and ask your question, after which we will mute you again. In the interest of time and to get as many questions in as possible, you're required to simply ask your questions and to avoid unnecessary commentary. With that being said, I'll now take the first question for either His Excellency, the President, or the Vice President. So the floor is now open. Our first question, please. When you notice your mic is unmuted, please proceed to ask your question.
What educational initiatives are being created to deal with the uneducated youth that sit on the corners and don't seem to be a part of this new Guyana program? Thank you.
We will ask His Excellency the President to start the discussion.
Would you like us to take a few questions and then
The question that is asked, Mr. President, is what are the initiatives being done to ensure that the unemployed youth can be integrated into the economy?
No, I'm saying if you would like us to take a few questions and then we present the answers, because it will save some time too.
Certainly. The next question, please.
Okay, thank you, His Excellency, for fusing the questions together, because this is fundamentally the focus on education as well. I'm a college professor in the US, and it is fundamentally important that Guyana replicate its education system to be able to match the process and the competition around the world. So how can you get us diaspora involved, and what are the plans to get us involved so we can bring our experience directly into the system to help from the grade school all the way to the university? And I'll be one of the first in order to get involved.
Thank you very much. We'll take one more question and then we'll go for the answers.
Devon Dublin, Japan. What would you say to Guyanese professionals in the diaspora who are highly skilled and may be reluctant to return to take up a position in the government, fearing that they may lose that position if the government changes? Thank you.
All right, we'll take one more. Well, whilst we're waiting on some of our questions, let's get to the president and the vice president for the answers.
Well, first of all, let me thank those contributors for their question. I don't really like to classify anyone as uneducated. There's just different potential in different persons, and it is how we develop a system or develop a strategy to harness the best potential of an individual or individuals. Indeed, there are people, young people, who participate in the formal education system. That is, they go through school. Then we have those who participate in the formal education system up to a point, referred to as school dropouts. And then we have, of course, a section with no participation in the formal education system. That does not say that they are not capable of being integrated in the system and being integrated in the future of the country. How do we aim to achieve this? We have already worked on a plan to expand technical and vocational education and to integrate TechVoc in the secondary school system itself. But we appreciate the fact that the integration of TechVoc in the schools themselves and in the formal education system would only cater for those who pass through the system. But then you have those that never enter the system. So what we're doing now is developing community learning facilities. And these community learning facilities are linked to the programs of government. So in the housing program now, we have many of these young persons who are trained in block making. Not only trained, but given seed capital to start up the operations from a community level. So without going into the full expanse of the program, the strategy is geared and tailored at different level. And then we have the involvement of the diaspora. We have outlined the various areas in which skills are needed in the pursuit of the strategy. Now, we already have many members of the diaspora who are contributing to advancing many of these policies in the education sector itself. How do we ensure, though, that we have a full understanding of the skills we have there in the diaspora? And that is why I said the coordination of the asset we have out there. For example, you may have someone who is skilled in special needs education, very skilled in special needs education. You may have someone who is skilled in providing educational opportunities and services in the prison system. Only yesterday, the vice president and I were discussing a few names we know in the diaspora who are the leadership in different skills development program in prisons across the globe. How do we harness that potential and bring that potential in the system? So it's understanding also what we have out there. And just before I ask Vice President to come in, losing your position if government change. It's very simple. The only way we came into government, we made it very clear that professionals and true public servants, you have nothing to fear. But there is a line between professional and political. And I've made it very clear. We have to make choices. If you're a politician, don't hide it under being a public servant. If you're a politician and you pursue that route, then you must understand that you're pursuing a political career. That you are now aligning yourself with a party that is seeking government that may have a completely different strategy from their competitor. So you come, stay professional. You want to be, and of course, if you want to be political, that is welcome too. That is part of the democratic values. But if you're pursuing a professional pathway, then that, of course, is different.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I've listened to the president lay out the plans for his government, and I'm sure that many in the diaspora today will have a lot of questions that we may not be able to get through. I'm going to be very specific in relation to the question. So what is being done for young people who may have moved out of the school system but cannot find employment or cannot go on to study? So there are several categories of such persons. For example, someone completing school and having maybe 2 subjects CXE. You require 5 subjects to move on to university or to gain employment. A lot of those people do not want to go into manual labor. So we're opening up a number of service type opportunities, the call centers, incentivizing those. We have one of the best tax regimes in the world in terms of getting ICT related jobs, where many of them are now finding employment and they are trained on the job. So we have thousands of young people working there. The government has even built the shells for many of these entities, and now we are incentivizing like 10 years tax holiday for investment in the areas. We even co-sponsor the training of young people there. So that is one group of people. Then you have a number of young people who are also, as someone said, maybe dropped out of the school system. So we had an apprenticeship program that we started where we placed people with businesses. Now that program has grown enormously, and we have put quite a bit of money in the budget under the Board of Industrial Training. So apart from formal tech voc education that the president mentioned in like the technical training colleges, we have built new ones. When the PPP was in office, we built one in Region 4, we expanded in Region 5, in Region 2, in Region 10, we expanded that program. But we're also, through the Board of Industrial Training, targeting many people who dropped out of the system. And we even have a program where once they complete an apprenticeship program, they then get some tools so they can start a small business. Then that is bolstered by support for small business development. So that group of young people is crucial in the future. We're going to have labor shortages in the near future, given the huge investment opportunity, like the construction boom that has started since we got into office. We're running short of skilled labor in like carpenters, plumbers, electricians. So we're now targeting a lot of those young people to do that. The housing program that the government just has, 300 houses being built, thousands of young people already starting to work there. So a lot of job creating initiatives for those who may have dropped out of the formal school system. The second part about the diaspora involvement in education. Clearly, there is a need to modernize public education at all levels, largely because our society is changing and the world is changing. Not just the curricula, but in which area we train persons and how we prepare them for the future. Now, that would require the curricular reform, but also a new method for delivering education, particularly because of the pandemic. So the skill types often don't exist here, but we're buying those skill types to bolster online means, virtual means of reaching our education our population, our young people right across the country. So there is that. But right now we want to ramp up immediately university training in Guyana. The University of Guyana, which has received enormous support from the government of Guyana, is doing that. But we have to accelerate this. And the president spoke about a promise that the PPP made, 20,000 scholarships in 5 years. We're starting with 4,500 this year so that we can, and these will be programs offered by universities abroad so that we can get the number of trained people up with tertiary degrees. But outside of that, there are huge opportunities in the private sector for the delivery of education. We want to upgrade public education consistent with our approach to support private education. And this is where the diaspora can make investments. We have in the first budget, 30 days after we got back into office, we remove the corporate tax on education at every level. So if you invest in a university, if you invest in any education facility, a nursery school, a primary school, you now don't have to pay corporate tax. So your net gross profit becomes your net profit because we wanted to upgrade private education too. So I would urge a lot of our people in the diaspora, just do not look to government because government opportunities are limited for employment. We are creating enormous opportunities. I don't want to list them. The president, I suspect, has done quite a bit of that. But this is where people have to aim for, targeting those opportunities in the private sector, not just for education. He mentioned logistics, accounting services, security services, healthcare services. We did the same thing in the health sector. We removed the corporate tax for investment in healthcare. So if a person builds a hospital, builds a clinic here, many of our doctors from abroad are coming to do that. And the demand is up now for quality healthcare, then they don't have to pay any taxes of that nature, any corporate tax. So that is what I encourage people to do. But definitely we're undergoing a period of change in the education sector, particularly, and we have to do this faster because of the pandemic. And then the president mentioned about politicians. You know, in Guyana, you've had a lot of talk about this issue, and sometimes it's very misleading globally because people feed off of negatives from Guyana. So, for example, APNU accuses the PPP of removing Afro-Guyanese from the public service. But let me tell you, after 23 years in office, the PPP was in office from 1992 to 2015. After 23 years in office, the army, the police, the prisons, the fire, and the public service had an overwhelming number at every level of Afro-Guyanese. In fact, the majority in all of these public service entities in the education sector, in healthcare, every sector, almost public sector, the majority of people working there were Afro-Guyanese. So it's inconsistent with what they claim, that we try to remove Afro-Guyanese from the public sector. And that was after 23 years in office. And so people have nothing to fear if they're professional. We never ask people how they vote. We never ask the army or the police. When Guyanese are recruited, we never ask that. That's people's right. But if you actively engage in politics, you mount the platform, then that's a different matter. You have to, when the government changes, and I would expect that from APNU, if APNU too, that would be reasonable if they change people of that nature. So so that is our approach to this. We want all of our people, every single Guyanese and those in the diaspora, to be engaged here. But as I said before, the bulk of the opportunities are not in government employment. Too many from the people from the diaspora send us a CV. We have hundreds of CV for the oil and gas sector for employment, and we only need maybe about 6 or 7 major specialists at this point in time that can help guide the local people that we are training in the sector. So the bulk of the opportunities will be in the private sector, and our people must take advantage of these opportunities now. Thank you. I'll come back to that later.
Great, thank you very much. I have some more questions here. We have Marissa Loden from New York, and she says, what are some of the challenges in engaging the diaspora? And secondly, we have Richard Rambahal out of Toronto asking, considering the push towards potential investment in the agriculture sector, will land be made easily accessible to foreigners who meet the criteria for investment?
You don't want to take some more questions?
Very well. Let's go to the floor. We have a question from Mr. Hasib Yusuf from Saudi Arabia.
Yes, thank you. First of all, good morning, everyone. I just want to make a comment before that. In fact, I want to congratulate His Excellency the President, our Foreign Minister, for the excellent support that they offer to the Palestinian people over the crisis that we have had the other day. And I know our government has always, His Excellency's government has always been very integral in supporting human rights and liberation for the Palestinian people. And this is very commendable. And so we here in the diaspora would like to express our congratulations for the government. I know the Vice President, when he was president, also had, in a very sustained way, supported the Palestinian cause. And though our country is small, I think we can play a lead role in championing democracy and human rights in around the globe. So I want to congratulate our government, and I want to ask for their continued support for this very tragic situation that is happening here in the Middle East. In our, the president previously in the statement that we received from when the diaspora unit was established was that they're also looking for efforts in philanthropy so that people who can, you know, our country is now coming out of this situation that has been in for a very long time. And there will be a lot of needs, especially in the social area. So I want to echo the call also in this field, not only in terms of investment and business opportunities, but also in garnering support to support for the deserving sector in our community that is now emerging out of this dire state of poverty. The question I want to ask is, how do we access the diaspora unit, and in what way we can help the diaspora unit to understand the needs and challenges of the diaspora and the kind of support that they will need in order to make a significant contribution to the development of our country. And thank you very much for setting up the unit in the first case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Someone else before we go to the President and Vice President? One more question, please.
Good day. My name is Antonia Lola Dixon. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Pretoria here in South Africa. Many thanks for this privilege. And a very big thank you to his full presentation. My question goes thus. The very first question I have is, while addressing resources key
Work on the internet access and the bandwidth for Ms.
skills
Dixon.
are lacking in certain areas. The diaspora beings that will make us to be a part in the human resource. Sorry, hello, can you hear me?
All right.
No, you broke up a lot, so we didn't get a question.
I have the question here.
Oh, you have the question?
And Chinese government have for women and girls in Guyana in the area of sustainable development, especially regarding career capacity building, women empowerment, etc. One, and then we'll go to the president and vice president. Here from Harry Bihari out of London, UK. Now that we have Brexit in the UK, what steps is the government taking to make new trade agreements with the UK?
You want us to go now?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. So addressing the challenges of the diaspora, and that is why I think we arrived at this forum. We have a general idea of the challenges that the diaspora face in terms of facilitation, coordination, and participation here in Guyana. So part of this forum is, first of all, to outline the vision and strategy. Secondly, to get the feedback. And thirdly, because we did not want to do this without the participation of the diaspora. So after your feedback, we're then going to define the mode of operation with a unit and a diaspora in terms of facilitation, coordination, and participation. The challenges revolve around the issue of information sharing, and as I mentioned in my presentation, ensuring the diaspora has access to the right information and not misinformation. Secondly, ensuring the diaspora has a full understanding of the opportunities in our country, not in government, but in our country. With the cost of electricity coming down, what are the opportunities in manufacturing, industrial development, ecotourism, tourism itself, health services, educational services, ICT services? These and the list goes on, outlining in a very clear way what are the opportunities you can get engaged in. And I must say, over the last 8-9 months, we have had great feedback, not only feedback, but participation. For example, in all the new hotels that are coming on stream, in the proposals that came, many Guyanese in the diaspora are either leading those efforts or coordinating those efforts with international companies. And that is great to see, that the diaspora is taking an opportunity from Guyana and market that opportunity with global players and then bringing them back to the table. We have seen that in the hotel projects. The same can be said in health services. We have many Guyanese who return from the diaspora who are playing lead role from the private sector in the provision of health services here now. And the opportunities are there. The same can be said about education facilities. So it is about defining the opportunities, and that is what we hope to do. Use this opportunity to define clearly the opportunities. The availability of land, we have a very open policy. We don't discriminate, especially when it comes to our diaspora. In agriculture, there land available for specific development or focus on aquaculture would present its own opportunity, taking up our rice production and so on. But let me make this very clear. Land in certain specific areas. Are we on? You're hearing me?
Seems that someone is accessing the share screen. All right, there we go.
Yeah. So land, and we have to be very clear. Land in certain areas will be market driven because we have to have cross subsidization. So in high demand areas, the price will be closer to market price. The land will be available, but it's not going to be free land in those areas. It will be closer to market price because we use resources from the sale of those land to cross-subsidize low-income housing, middle-income housing, and so on. So there's differentials. Agricultural land will have a different regime. Commercial land, industrial land, manufacturing land. So land will be in different categories. And I hope the Minister of Finance and Go Invest will be able to talk in detail about some of this. But I just want to make that differential. However, the Vice President was discussing recently and our approach to land in the future. Whilst now we have to use the land to catalyze imported investment, we know that the reality is we live in a region, take Trinidad and Tobago for example. Outside investors cannot own the land. They either have to lease the land or rent the land. Lease a building or rent a building. Land can only be owned by citizens. I'm just giving that example. That is not the case in Guyana. But as we move forward, it has to be a flexible policy looking at demand, looking at the future, and ensuring that Guyanese are the prime beneficiary of the land. And I'm speaking very frankly, that is an important part of local content. The simple things like rental of apartments, rental of buildings, those should be left for the investment of Guyanese and rented by the companies when they come. So though the policy is not as drastic as those policies now, it definitely will evolve over coming years. Plans for women and girls. Let me say very clearly that our government takes very strongly our responsibility not only to the removal of barriers in the society that inhibits the participation of women and girls, but by policy, we started to change legislatively the role of women and girls in policy making, in decision making, and in government. And we have seen over the years greater and greater participation at every level, at the level of policy, at the level of management, in the private sector itself, and now at the universities. There is no differential in the policy. But girls are participating at a far higher rate in higher education than boys. And that is a challenge the region is facing now. So not only have we designed the infrastructure to facilitate, encourage female participation in the economy and in government and in education system, but by design, we actively pursued those objectives. What we are hoping to achieve now is higher number of businesses, small businesses owned by female. And the Minister of Tourism would tell you that out of the Small Business Development Fund, most of the applicants are women. When we were in government in the period 2006 to 2011, we launched the WOW initiative, the Woman of Worth initiative, that saw a specific program designed and tailored for the empowerment of women, the upliftment of women, making them entrepreneurs, making them business owners. And that is the type of meaningful policies that we pursue, not only to empower women, but to give them a sustainable pathway. And we're seeing the results of those programs now.
So I'm going to group the questions and probably give a generic response. So the president spoke about the challenges of engaging the diaspora and how this conference and the feedback from the conference hopefully will improve the design of an engagement strategy that will allow us to address the nuances of this, the challenges of engagement. And then we had a question about land for people in the diaspora. So they're linked in a way because it's important that our people in the diaspora understand the challenges of the policymakers too. Not just challenges people from the diaspora have with engagement in Guyana, but the problems that policymakers face when engaging the diaspora. So many of you claim that when you come to Guyana, or you go to Go Invest or some other agency, you don't get information and projects are not treated seriously. But let me give you an example. On land issues, we have a lot of land in Guyana, as you know. On a per capita basis, we're one of the most sparsely populated countries in the world. But not all of this land is arable. In fact, along the coast, we have land pressures now because most of the land are either privately owned, and the only publicly owned lands belong to Gaisuco, but now there's huge demand for it in Region 4 and probably some in Region 3 when we open up the new road. So there is a limitation on how much land we have. And there are hundreds of people with projects from the diaspora, from Guyana, who often apply for the same land in the same area. And they have various different kinds of projects. So it is often in the screening process. You have to look at the best project, and often many people are disappointed. So some people come and say, I applied for that piece of land and I didn't get it. And they see it as somehow the government not wanting to help them because they have high expectations. You have to understand we operate here in a competitive, transparent environment too. And so people cannot be frustrated by that. Now, if you were to come in and buy your own land, then that's fine. But when you apply for government land, etc., there is a process people have to go through, and a competitive process. So that is why understanding what we face also in engaging the diaspora, like someone just drops off the CV and then say, oh, the government of Guyana doesn't like to hire people from the diaspora. Look, I sent my CV, I'm well qualified. But 10 other persons have applied from the diaspora, and maybe 3 or 4 from the local who are just as qualified for the post too. So it's important as we go forward and craft a strategy that we understand these issues so as to avoid frustration. The gentleman, I think, who was in Saudi Arabia asked how they can access the diaspora unit. Well, the contacts are all there, and I think that's easy to follow up how they can access the diaspora unit. The point that the president made about the PPP's commitment to women and generally the national commitment to women. I know the question was raised by someone, I think, from South Africa. And I want to say in Guyana's case, we have, in a bipartisan way, we have approached the issue of tackling discrimination against women seriously. We, in the last constitution reform that we had in 2001, we created, of the 5 rights commission that were created, human rights, ethnic relations, indigenous people, gender, and children. These are the 5 right commission with powers of sanction over the executive. And you have to have 2/3 support from the National Assembly to sit on those commissions. Women and gender issues were protected now by the Constitution of Guyana, and we inserted that body in the Constitution. Secondly, all of our labor laws, etc., were amended to ensure that there's no discrimination based on gender, race, politics, etc. And then there are several initiatives. The president mentioned WOW initiative, several initiatives that saw women's participation in many parts of the national life improve. If you look at the teaching service now, the majority of women, not just that we have 2/3 of the graduate from the university are women, but in the teaching service, maybe 60–70% of those people, even higher, are the teachers are women. So there's no glass ceiling to women's upward mobility in Guyana. We have even had to pass some strong laws against sexual violence and all of that, because we still do have that problem. So on gender-related matters and career development, as mentioned by the person from, I think, from South Africa, I think we can move forward. And there's a question about what we're doing now because of Brexit. What we are doing, we are not engaging directly with the UK, but we're engaging through CARICOM. So we have signed an agreement that would preserve the similar access that we had to the European Union, to the United Kingdom, through that omnibus agreement that Guyana is part of with CARICOM. Thank you.
I just want to add though, when you look at some of the best functioning diaspora and see what keeps them or glue them together, is the ability to network. And creating this platform gives you an opportunity beyond Guyana, because you have persons from different areas, different fields, where you can share global information, global opportunities. And the diaspora now can be engaged in a way that they can have access to those opportunities. They can have information about those opportunities in Grenada, in Barbados, with the Caribbean Development Bank, because there's a lot of consultancies that comes out of the CDB, for example. And we have so many consultancy forms in the diaspora. I see popping up on the screen, people sharing their information, but you don't see them bidding for these consultancy. You don't see them bidding for the IDB consultancy. You don't see them bidding for the World Bank consultancies. So this gives us that opportunity to network, to share that information, and to build that platform that would present these opportunities. I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
We'll take some more questions. Now, I need to remind our audience that not all of your questions will get to the floor. Unfortunately, there are lots of them and they're very good questions. A lot of these questions are very thematic focused. So you'll find the answers to them in our breakout rooms when we get to that session. We have a panel, several panelists there in those rooms, and they are equipped to answer a lot of these questions there. Now, if for some reason, even in the breakout sessions, your questions are not being answered, I can assure you that the Diaspora Unit is making a record of all of these questions, and we will be following up with the individuals at various points in time with the answers to these questions. All right, with that being said.
Rosalinda, just for transparency, just for transparency, I just wanted to interrupt you, Rosalinda. Sorry about this. Just for transparency, when on the website that we create, all the questions that are asked will be answered, and the answers and questions will be placed on that website. So everybody will see what was asked and the answers. So I just want to make that clear, that we're not only going to send the individual answers back to the persons, but we're going to list all those questions and the answers on the website.
President. We'll take some more questions.
Okay, I think it's me who can answer, present a question. My name is Andre Brandley. I'm sitting in Zurich, Switzerland, and I have a specific question regarding the plans for the Natural Resource Fund. As you know, the Natural Resource Fund harbors all the oil revenues of Guyana, and I think it will be very important for the long-term future of the revenue generated that this Natural Resource Fund is managed in a manner that is transparent and that does not basically deplete the fund from its resources. So the Norwegian model is worldwide the most successful model in managing sovereign wealth funds. And my specific question to the government and to the president and vice president is, are you planning to replicate the Norwegian model that will just use the returns of the money fed into the fund for investments in Guyana?
I thank you. I thank you for that question, and I just want to address it very early. Let me say a few things. One, there's a lot of academic debate on different funds and different way in which natural resources funds are managed globally. But what a lot of the academic debate don't tell you is that, for example, in the Norwegian model, which is a very good model, a model that we are looking at, and we're looking at many other models. Right now, we are looking at the Kazakhstan model, the Norwegian model. what we have to understand is Norway adopted that model after the country had a certain level of infrastructure, a certain level of service, a certain level of development. And this is key. This is key. And I think sometimes we need to premise our argument on the different models on this. What was the state of the country when they adopted a particular model? You would agree, as many have agreed, that Guyana is in dire need of infrastructure transformation. We're in dire need of transformation in the health sector, in the education sector, in the energy sector, and we have to create the framework for the expansion in other important sectors that will bring jobs and create the platform through which our country will evolve into the future and through which these funds can be modeled. And that is the stage we are in now at Guyana. That is the stage we are in now. Giving Guyana that opportunity to become competitive, giving us, the people of Guyana, the opportunity to get world-class services, giving Guyana the opportunity to get world-class infrastructure. That is the stage that we're concentrating on at this moment. That will be done transparently. That will be done transparently. And the model we finally settle on will be a model that is adopted nationally. It's a model, and we have said this very clearly. Look at the Petroleum Commission that we're going to establish. The involvement of the Parliament and everything we have outlined layers in terms of the management and transparency of the fund. But it's very important that we understand context and understand where Guyana is starting from, what was the stage of Norway when they adopted the model, and what led them to that stage. So I know also we have to be conscious, because we are criticized locally here too, that the model must involve local development of ideas and not not only externally driven. So we have to be conscious. Whilst we look at all the external good practices and best practices that we will adopt, we have to understand, sorry, the local conditions. So I'm just going to ask Vice President.
So in opposition, we were very critical of the current natural resource fund because it was passed in the Parliament after the no confidence motion without any input from any political party. At that time, elections should have been held. And the reason we were critical is we did not believe that the model was arm's length enough in terms from the politician, in terms of management. So we have always been in favor of one principle in the Norwegian fund, that the fund must be managed in a professional manner, in an arm's length way from political interference. So we are committed to that principle. Secondly, we are committed to the Santiago principles in terms of transparency in use of natural resources fund. Thirdly, it was the People's Progressive Party, when we were in government in the past, that signed us up to the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative. So we believe we are fully subscribed to that in terms of use of the funds. We have also made further commitments when the previous government collected the signing bonus, and they did not tell the country 18 million for a year and a half. We made it clear that we will criminalize non-disclosure of receipts from oil companies. So if the Minister of Finance does not publish in the official gazette and notify the National Assembly 3 months after the receipt, 3 to 6 months after the receipt of any funds from any oil company, then that the Minister of Finance and and maybe the Secretary to the Treasury can go to jail. So any Guyanese can at the end of the year get a copies of the official gazette and add all of the official gazettes, and they will see the sum collected from oil companies. So what the president is saying, we're committed to transparent use of the resources, but there is a de minimis level. The United States of America has a per capita income of $6,000 to $7,000. We in Europe, UK, $40,000. Our per capita GDP is $5,000. How do we get to 25, 30,000 in the next 10 years? And that's where we have to head. The only way we can do that is investing some of the money from the oil funds. Now, in infrastructure, the country has a deficit of infrastructure. It has a deficit of good quality education and healthcare. These are prerequisites for future growth. We need to invest some of those funds into ensuring that the other sectors of the economy remain relevant so that when the oil goes, we don't suffer from the Dutch disease and kills off the other sector. So when you look at the magnitude of what we're receiving so far, and we'll receive up to 2025, we're receiving about $300 million a year. That's a drop in the bucket, and our infrastructural needs now, just to build a single bridge, might cost us $200 million, the Demerara river crossing. So he's saying these resources right at the beginning have to be used in a transparent manner to get us to a level, a standard from which they take off here. And then you save for intergenerational equity, because it's unconscionable to have people who can't send their kids to school whilst you're saving for the future. You have to make sure that the kids now have enough to eat and go to school. So the model, definitely we subscribe to the Norwegian model in the principle of it and the transparent use of resources, but the president had a nuanced position, which I support fully.
Just Rosalinda, I know that you have the different sessions that will deal directly with some of these issues, and I don't want us or participants to feel as if we are minimizing the importance of those sessions. So tell us when we are going. I think we are going into a number of those sessions. So if there is anything, if there is anything else on the policy side, please. Yes. And that's a Guyanese thing.
On the policy side from the audience?
Yeah, of course, from the audience. Anything on any clarity in terms of policy, so we can address and give the sessions the opportunity to elaborate.
It doesn't appear to be any question on the policy. It seems to be more of the thematic area of question. So with that being said, I know it's very important that we get to our panelists, and all right, so we are going to give the president and the vice president a few minutes to bring their session to an end with a few closing remarks.
All right, so Rosalinda, members of the diaspora, I'm so honored to be part of this forum. This is not going to be our last engagement. As soon as we get ahead of the pandemic, we're hoping to be with you in your communities. We're hoping to welcome you back home. Look at the opportunities from a macro perspective, and of course, ask the tough questions to the different forums and different breakout rooms. And we look forward to working with you. Please encourage your families and friends back home to take the vaccines. The government is making a tremendous investment in getting the vaccine out. So we ask you to please encourage your families and friends back home. Thank you very much, and God bless all of you. And we wish you a productive rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and Mr. Vice President. All right, for all our participants, we are now entering into our breakout room sessions. At the bottom of your screen, you will see a button that says breakout rooms. Click on that button and you will immediately see three. One, trade and investment. Room two, security, tourism, and volunteerism. Room three, youth engagement, attraction of skills, and remigration. Click on the room you wish to enter. Upon selection, you will automatically be removed from this main room and taken into your respective breakout room where you will see your panelists. Please note that upon entering your breakout room, you'll be automatically muted as you are currently. If there are any persons encountering challenges in getting into any breakout room, please do not panic or be alarmed. Simply type in the chat box the room you wish to enter and our tech support will move you into that room. Any challenges you may encounter may be as a result of the hundreds of persons on this platform trying to get into a breakout room at the same time. We thank you for your cooperation and we look forward to engaging you even further in the 3 breakout rooms. Thank you very much.
The country is on an upward growth trajectory with the burgeoning oil and gas industry, the thriving tourism and hospitality industry, and the endless possibilities for development in every sector. Ghana received several international awards in the tourism sector, including the prestigious #1 Best Ecotourism Destination Award. Pre-COVID-19,